The brain processes nearly 10,000 visual and oral cues per minute. As first impressions stick, make the customers see your business in the right way. Funky Vibes can ensure your vibes attract the right tribe with their marketing expertise, graphic design, bespoke websites, and social media packages. For more information or a no-commitment initial consultation, simply email your tribe at funkyvibe.co.uk. You're listening to Go Fish, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome everyone to episode 41 of the Go Fish Marketing Podcast. My name's Mark, my business is Funky Vibes. Joining me as always are my fellow co-hosts. Now I'm not editing this show, so we'll see whether that little fraudulent slip goes in. It is the lovely, the wonderful, the person who's editing the show, so hopefully we'll leave that bit out, Elaine Atherton from To Sum It Up. How are we doing, Elaine?
God, I'll leave the lovely bit in about me, obviously. I might take that bit out of what you said, but who knows? But it's good to be here anyway.
And, of course, the person who would absolutely and unequivocally leave that fraudulent slip in. It is the equally wonderful Chris Roxburgh from My Marketing Guy. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm doing okay, thanks, Mark, and no question about it. I would leave that in. Yes.
And quite right, because you know I would do exactly the same as well.
I know you would.
So, thank you for listening to the show. If this is your first time, then perhaps we should briefly explain that we each come from slightly different areas of expertise within the marketing and sales world. And we choose a topic, we focus on it, and try and give you some tips and some advice that will hopefully help you make the most of the budget and to perhaps generate more customers, more business, more sales, etc. If this is the first episode, then you'll be pleased to know that there's another 40 that you can go back and listen to. If you want to find those, then you can either go to thepodstation.co.uk/gofish, where you'll find links to all of the major podcast platforms, or if you just type in Go Fish Marketing Podcast, you'll probably find it. You can subscribe. Then when we do future episodes, they will drop onto your device. Or as I say, you can go back and look at the historic shows and check those out as well. If you have a topic that you would like to suggest, or perhaps if you have any questions once you've listened to those episodes, if you send an email to gofish@thepodstation.co.uk, we will obviously get back to you and answer whatever questions. Alternatively, if you want to get in touch with us on social media, or on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, you can also listen to the full show now on YouTube, which we've started. We haven't quite yet got to the point where we record the show live with the visual, largely because both Chris and I are aware that we have faces for radio and not necessarily for TV.
But speak for yourself.
But we may well change that in the not too distant future. Once I've got over my ability to say hosts, then we will perhaps be able to do it relatively unedited, and therefore we won't need to worry about the visuals. So there you go. Right. We normally try and stick in a news section, a feature. So we normally cover a news item that's happened since the last show, just to discuss what the relevance might be to our particular field, perhaps to help you adjust your marketing strategy. Or if it's not necessarily directly related, you might be able to get some ideas on what you're doing at the minute. Now, who would like to mention the news item that we have on our list for today? Elaine, would you like to do it on the basis that you found it anyway?
Well, it was very topical at the moment. Sadly, many of us will know Debenhams, which is a huge store across the country, isn't it? And it's been around for many, many years. And ultimately, anyway, it's been bought out. But the sad bit is there aren't going to be stores anymore. It's going to be online in its new guise. So not a great story, but then there's not that many great stories around at the moment. But I suppose the story behind it is from the marketing and how they operate is just going to be worlds apart from how they've operated now. And even though they're massive, I guess there's going to be people who've got lots smaller businesses who've had to face the same decisions, haven't they, to take a business online. It seems to be a great route for many people at the moment.
You're absolutely right, Elaine. It is terribly sad that Debenhams is going. It was a family day out, wasn't it, for many people once upon a time. A big store, every major town and city had one, and shocking. But as you say, again, there are a lot of small companies going under. No one is bulletproof from the effects of this appalling pandemic and the economic knock-on effect.
It doesn't bode well for the high street that such a big store hasn't been able to survive, but by the same token, I think it does show the strength and the importance of the online world. The fact that they believe that they can turn this company around by going online and selling online and having that shop facility. And I suppose from our perspective, it shows the change in the strategy that they will have to have in order to promote the online, as opposed to obviously having these big shop-facing windows that people will pass.
I mean, truth is anyway, isn't it? Clothes are not, people are not buying as many clothes. If you look at the numbers of where people are spending their money currently, the money they're spending on clothes has dropped to what it would have been over a year ago. But it's not that they're not spending money. Some people spend it, but they spend it in different places. And,
I think people are wearing their pajamas out in this society we've got at the moment, but that's just about it. You're not putting on your best stuff to go out to a restaurant on a Saturday night, are you?
I've worn the same pair of tracksuit pants for the last 10 months now.
Glad you said tracksuit.
Thank God we're on Zoom.
Obviously, they've been washed in between. I haven't worn any pants when they've been changed. But I'm devastated by Debenhams. Do you know why? Because I absolutely loathe clothes shopping. Absolutely hate clothes shopping. But Debenhams used to have that personal shopper facility where you could book an appointment. You went in. Yeah. It cost nothing. I mean, this is the amazing thing. It costs you nothing. You just go in. Well, it was usually a girl, but obviously it doesn't have to be. But she used to always ask me what it was I was after. Has far better taste she has far better taste than I ever have. She'd then disappear for half an hour going around the shop grabbing all the stuff that I've just described and done. She'd also grab some extra items that are on a similar theme, but perhaps I might not have picked up. She'd bring it back. In that half an hour, I'd just sit doing work and catching up on emails. She'd bring it all back. I'd try it all on, and I'd keep some stuff, not keep other stuff. If things didn't fit, she'd go back and get the right sizes. And I would just do a bulk of clothes shopping in one foul swoop, from the luxury of just sitting down and doing nothing. It was amazing and completely changed how I did clothes shopping.
I never knew that was a service.
Oh, it's fabulous.
My clothes shopping is a bit like the SAS. Know what I want, go in, get it, get out.
Well, mine was as well, but sometimes if you had to get numerous items, you'd have to go to different stores, which I absolutely hated. Whereas because she knew all the way around the store and obviously knew her job far better than I do, I could just say, look, I need X, Y, and Z. Can you go and get it for me, please? I mean, for example, I was going to an event and I was like, listen, I need an outfit for tonight. I've put it off, put it off, and put it off. What can you do for me? And she go, right, what type of event is it? Well, it was a red carpet event, actually, it was for the Mobos, I don't want to, and we were on the VIP carpet, and I was like, listen, I've put this off because I have no idea what I was supposed to wear. I'm not cool, I don't look cool. How do you make me look cool without looking too try hard? And off she went. She came back half an hour later with some brilliant options, and it was just, So, if she's listening, it's highly unlikely. I can't remember your name, but you are quite literally a saint in my eyes, and I sincerely hope that if you have lost your job as a result of this, you find a job doing the same thing somewhere else. Tap me up, because I will go there and do all my shopping there instead.
Oh.
Anyhow, before I start bursting into tears about this, we should.
It's a sad story.
It's a good story, because Debenhams obviously still exists, just not in the form.
Yeah.
However, we are running on a theme. Last episode we covered the topic of what are the headaches of trying to market your business when you are locked away in your home. Of course, the pandemic is still ongoing. It's got quite intense out there, various strands and infection rates, etc. So it is extremely restricted in terms of what people can do in their day-to-day lives, and from a business perspective, that massively restricts how you may or may not be able to promote or even function as a business. So this next few episodes are all going to be run along the theme of how to address some of those issues. Last week we looked more about the challenges of trying to do it from home, when your kids are stealing all the internet, when you're trying to pretend that you know how to do 5th grade algebra whilst rapidly trying to Google the answers, and obviously try and run your business at the same time. One of those things that we actually mentioned as being a massive positive as a result of those, well, I suppose an unforeseen benefit and opportunity, was Zoom, which is the online system that we're actually using just to record this podcast. No spoilers as to one of the positives we're going to suggest. So we thought we would delve a bit more into this software, this system, this setup, and try and cover how you can really use it to, promote your business, build your network, sell your products, and hopefully on the back of this show, you'll all be Zoom gurus. You can go away and make a small fortune. Is that right, Chris?
That's absolutely right, Mark. And Fat Larry has a lot to answer for, because Zoom has become the soundtrack of my business and personal life since March 2020. If those of you are too young to remember Fat Larry, Google it. You'll love it. Google Fat Larry Zoom. But Zoom, I couldn't have been without Zoom. It enabled me to keep my business going, and the beauty of it was for me when I first looked into it, because workshops just fell off a cliff for me. Couldn't do them. Couldn't meet people as of middle of March last year. Couldn't go to sessions. So I had to consider my options, and the only option was to get to know something like Zoom. There are other platforms that do a similar sort of thing, but this one for me was good, and I think for a lot of other people would be the best, because it's easy to set up, and you don't need to be technically gifted. And I'm not technically gifted, so it fitted like a glove with me. And as you get to know it better and better, you do get to know you do get to know the abilities and the facilities, the extra bits and pieces that you can use, which we're going to go into in a bit more detail. But it saved me. It kept an income coming in for me in being able to change from workshops to webinars using Zoom.
We've picked Zoom. I mean, we have no financial allegiances with Zoom. We're not getting paid for promoting this, although, quite frankly, we should drop them an email as a result of doing this. I suppose we mainly focused on it because it seems to be the more prevalent option that people go for. Do we have any experiences of any other similar ones? I think Microsoft Teams was another one which I've heard of. I haven't first-hand experienced as such.
Yeah, no, I've only been on it as a guest. I've not used it personally. I think it's stick with what you know, isn't it? As what I went with, really.
I was asked by a client to use Microsoft Teams, and it did strike me as being considerably more complicated for the technically challenged. So I it's not one I was ever going to swap to, but it is what you know. And that particular company knew Microsoft Teams and probably thought Zoom was a step into the unknown. So yeah, there's Microsoft Teams, there's Skype, there's FaceTime that people use, all the ones that were around beforehand that we knew about. But Zoom for me is wins the day.
And why specifically do we feel that Zoom is the most effective? What are the applications that you can use for Zoom that perhaps you can't for, say, Skype or FaceTime?
Oh God, where do we start? I mean, there's a whole list of things, isn't there, that Zoom is good for. I think it depends on how you look at it. For me, I've used Skype. I used to use it talking to clients. And then when we moved to Zoom, it was just like, well, we'd never go back to Skype. And it's just because for me, it's a lot easier, as Chris said, to navigate. Once you get your head around it and all the things it does, then it's literally just like having as inverted commas, a virtual conversation, isn't it, with somebody? So it feels, it's always felt to me like it's really user friendly, and for me, user friendly is pretty significant, really. So as for all the things it has, gosh, where do we start? The list is endless, isn't it? And as you said, we're on here now recording this on Zoom, aren't we? Which then allows it to be turned into a podcast, which, as we know, podcast is audio only. So there's so many configurations of it for your business, whether it's just chatting with people or actually it's used as a training platform, a networking platform. There's just so many aspects of it that, or, your quiz night with your family, that it could be that as well.
Just today, I've had a networking. I've been networking. I've got this podcast. I've had 2 one-to-one sales meetings, and tonight I'm meeting 4 friends in the virtual pub. We will be there with a couple of pints, and we'll put the world to rights. And we're from all over the country, so we wouldn't have been meeting otherwise, and that's been great for the 5 of us because we've known each other for 25, 30 years maybe, and we used to get together a couple of times a year, and we're now getting together on Zoom once a fortnight for a pint, and it's just fabulous from that aspect.
I mean, the removal of border challenges and geographical issues is probably one of the most impressive. Well, the irony is this technology has been around for ages, but no one seems to have particularly used it until now.
No,
and certainly for me personally, on the likes of LinkedIn, building a network beyond sort of the county boundaries has always been something that you kind of think about doing. But quite often when you start a conversation on LinkedIn, it might involve a rather arduous, long-winded exchange of messages or emails. You might get a telephone conversation, but because you can't look people or into the whites of their eyes, and I suppose it's still not as good as looking into the whites of the eyes of someone in person, perhaps, but you can still face-to-face see people, and I think it adds a personal ability to meet with someone who's hundreds of miles away, but without losing some of the benefits you get from that face-to-face contact.
Yeah, quite agree. I'm just about to do some business with somebody who I met. Well, I've known him a little while, but he moved to Chelmsford and we lost contact. And he contacted me again through LinkedIn, coincidentally with your story. And we spoke on Zoom this morning, and I'm doing some work for him in February, which is great. But that wouldn't have happened without all these circumstances coming together really.
With 22 million UK users, LinkedIn offers a fabulous opportunity to find your ideal clients and to stay ahead of your competition. But what do these future clients currently find when they visit your profile? First impressions count. So, are you proud of your fantastic profile because it is client ready and written with them in mind? Or do you look at it and wonder how you could do better because you are not generating leads? My Marketing Guy works with those who want to take advantage of the amazing potential offered by LinkedIn. So, for more details, please email guy@mymarketingguy.co.uk to arrange an initial consultation. Remember, your next client is on LinkedIn.
And Elaine, would you go back? Would you know when lockdown unleashes us from our shackles? Will you still use Zoom for arranging face-to-face meetings with people? And would that include local meetings as well as people who might be further afield?
Yes, I would, actually. It's a massive yes for me, really. I think that, like Chris said, if I looked at my diary, over this last 7 days alone, I probably had on average 3 Zooms a day, varying lengths and things. And I think there's a lot of that I wouldn't really want to change. The some awards, without doubt, I do definitely want to meet up with people again. But actually, when you think about meaningful conversations, it's very different than picking a phone up than Zoom. Because as you say, you feel like you're meeting somebody, like you will have done. You're meeting someone for the first time on Zoom. It actually feels like you've got you've got to know them better than you would if you'd just picked the phone up and spoke to them, without doubt. So I would definitely do that. I think you can meet a lot more people very quickly if you on Zoom. So I won't be dropping it. I'll obviously I will be doing some face-to-face stuff. Of course I will, but I certainly won't be switching all my business back to face-to-face.
Yeah, you can. Sorry, go on, Chris.
No, I think there's going to be that people have referred to it as the happy hybrid for all of us, where we mix the Zoom and the face-to-face as and when preferred. And we can still do that business with people who are hundreds of miles away because we've found out that we can. It's not a barrier. So that's still going to happen, and that might happen more and more for smaller companies like ours and owners of companies that listen to these podcasts as well, because that's what these podcasts are for. So the flexibility of Zoom with those meetings and putting webinars on, networking, socializing, the lot. It's just a fabulous opportunity which will stay around.
So before we get stuck into the features of Zoom that you can use to I don't know, enhance meetings, participate in networking events, or host them, even socialize or do the likes of webinars. In terms of cost, there is a free version of Zoom, isn't there? It gives you some limited functionality, and I think if ever you've watched, I can't remember what the name of the film is now, there's a film that they've done where the length of the film lasts the length of the free version of Zoom, which is just under an hour. And obviously everyone gets wiped out, spoiler alert, within that period. There is I think it's a £14 a month, which is sort of an entry pro version where you get pretty much all of the functionalities, bar a few bits and pieces. And then I think there's a more expensive one, which is about £60 a month, which is, I think, more for the bigger organisations that need it on a much bigger scale. So it's quite effective. You can use Zoom, can't you, on mobiles, tablets, laptops, so it's very user-friendly. It's very accessible for people. There's no excuse of, oh, I don't have a computer. It's like, great, have you got a tablet? No, I don't have a tablet. Do you have a mobile phone? Yes. Right, well, you can do Zoom then, sunshine. We've had that conversation with people many a time. So it is very good. So let's get stuck into some of the features then. Who wants to go first? What are some of the great features that you've come across? I'll start with you, Chris. Which ones are your particular favourites?
Favorite features? Wow. The I suppose the ability to talk to people. I suppose in a networking environment, the ability to be put into different rooms. You can open up, or the host of the meeting can open up rooms to allow people to talk to one another on a more confidential basis. So you might have a meeting of 20 people. You could divide them into 5 lots of 4 and put them into 5 different rooms. This could apply equally to networking. It also apply to company meetings. So if a spot of teamwork, brainstorming, or coming up with different ideas, solving problems with your team is concerned, then all coming back to the main meeting. It's that there is quite a it's quite a good feature of Zoom. I'm struggling for words here because
You love it so
difficult.
much.
It's difficult to describe, isn't it? Easily if people haven't used it before.
It's a bit like when you go to one of those seminars and there's a big room of people and then they make you go off onto a separate table with a smaller group of folk and do an exercise together or something like that, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or perhaps when you turn up to a networking event and you're all sitting in a crowd of people and afterwards you can just go off and have a coffee with someone, or perhaps a smaller number of people, and have a more personalised chinwag. It's much the same concept except electronic.
It is, and it's yes, it does the same job as you would be doing on a face-to-face basis, as you say. Big benefit for me, that.
Elaine, what's one of your faves?
One of my favorites. Well, it's doing presentations, really, isn't it? Sharing your slides, you can do all of that. So it's, again, these things are easy when you know how, but there's loads of tutorials around Zoom, so you'll be never sure to finding out how to do these things. So and you're being aware that actually you can mute people, so you're doing your presentation, because that's if you're making that transition into doing something like that online, your skill set is what you're talking about. Your skill set is not necessarily the IT techie side, so it's making yourself really familiar with that before you do it live with an audience. But the facilities of the features of it and the things you can do are really good. So other than that, for me, I'd say the one-to-one communications are very quick. Why would you not do it? If you think about, you're ringing someone for 15 minutes, why don't you just Zoom them 15 minutes? Because you can then share stuff that you might want them to see. You could share a proposal that you're putting together. You can share things. You can't do that on the phone. So it can be very instant if you use it in the right way.
Elaine, do you want to explain that screen share a little more? Because if people haven't seen it, they mightn't just understand what's going on here.
Yeah, sure. When you're in Zoom, you see it as one of the features on your screen, and it's literally what it means is that you can share something. So you've got a presentation open in the background, which could, is what you want to talk about. You are able to share those slides with the people on the Zoom call with you, and go through the presentation as you would as if they were in a room. So it's and obviously there's even more you can do than that, really, but fundamentally you can do the same thing that you do in a room. You can do it on Zoom, but it's just guessing that upskilling yourself, if you like, to make use of all those features.
Screen share for me as well. If I'm on a one-to-one with somebody and I'm explaining, a lot of what I talk about to people is LinkedIn. I can share my LinkedIn screen and show them what I mean. If I say, well, look, you're able to change your background, but I don't know how to do that. Well, I'll show you. I'll just share my screen. I'll walk you through it, and you can show them how to do things, where the project section is, but it's not just LinkedIn. It could be an Excel spreadsheet you're showing somebody. It could be anything from an educational point of view is absolutely fabulous, to be able to share and demonstrate and show and so on. And so as a sales aid, it's pretty well up there for me.
It is, and you think about that as well, that you could record that. So you were showing somebody, and you say, "I'll record it," and so you're not having to remember it. I'll send you the link after, and you can look at it again in your own time. So,
I haven't been that brave yet.
But there's so many things to it. I think that's and of course it depends on what you need it for in your business, doesn't it? How much you use all the bells and whistles that it's got, really, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the breakout rooms one that you use, Chris, mentioned earlier, we use for shameless new plug, the new networking business that I've started called New Gen Networking. Link in the show notes. But we use the breakout rooms to send people, but in between where we send them out to go and have those personalised one-to-one meetings, we do a presentation, so we share the PowerPoint presentation to people on their screen so they can see. I've done awards events, so a bit like when the Oscars, when you have the nominations and there's a sort of a VT clip that shows all the shortlisted people for that particular award.
Was that the Mobos that you had your had your special outfit for, Mark?
I wish I was younger, thinner, and I wouldn't say trendier from the Mobos. But yeah, I was able to share these videos and have music in the background so that people could experience that on their screen, again using the share screen option. And like you, Chris, if for example I've built a new website for somebody and I want to show them either the back end and how they can do things for themselves, or if we're doing some minor amendments to something and I can do it live, I can share the screen and we can almost do it live and they can see what's happening as it's doing almost real time. So it's a fantastic tool, both of those things, very much so. Chris, sorry, go on, Elaine.
I was going to say it fits there really, actually, is the chat box. So you can, there's a chat box and you can put questions in. And then at the end of the session, people can download the chat box. So if everybody's put their details in, of contact details, as long as the person hosting it allows you to do it, you can download it. And then so you then get that in a text format, all these people's contact details. Which is another great idea, isn't it? That you can do that.
I mean, the chat feature allows you to sort of do a general chat. So if you're in a room of multiple people, you can post a message to everyone, or you can actually have a personalised conversation with a specific individual if you want to keep it private.
Yeah. Or ask the host questions about what's going on as well.
Yeah.
What other cool features have we got on Zoom that we like?
A very cool feature is the ability to have a professionally branded background, Mark. I have a fabulous professionally branded background. So if I'm talking to somebody, as I was earlier, in a sales environment, I'm not sitting in front of my, I was going to say bedroom taps. Then I got rooms mixed up.
I am really glad you don't do this podcast from the bathroom.
in front of kitchen taps, or in front of chaos in the background. We've all seen it on television where people have with news items where kids have come running in and toys are all over the place, and I mean it's quite funny, it's quite endearing in a lot of ways. But if you want to present a good business image, get a good business background that is there when it sits behind you when you're talking to your sales prospect. And if you want to know somebody who can fix that for you, well, he's just about to tell you that he's got one himself.
Oh, another shameless plug,
There's lots of shameless plugs going on today, isn't there?
And they're all for Mark.
It has to be one of the most fun parts of it. You can have so much fun, can't you, Elaine? I mean, you're currently sitting in an amazing library of stuff.
I am.
But you can have any sort of, and the background features are better if you do have a green screen. It is worth investing if you're going to do a lot of these in a green screen. And again, we'll stick a link in the show notes for how to get a sort of a really reasonably priced one. The bigger, the better sometimes, and the price isn't awfully different to a degree. I mean, it's not much more different for a bigger one. It's more a case of where you're doing these meetings and how easily you want it up or down. But you can do some great things with them. I have all sorts of videos running and different backgrounds. You can have different locations. It's a bit. What's the best background you've seen, Elaine, so far in your Zoom experience?
I think one of the most memorable anyway, clearly, because it's the one that's just popped into my head, was somebody sitting in a private jet. That was quite intriguing, because I didn't actually know this person either. When I saw them the first time, I'm like, oh my word, this is impressive. And then obviously I realised it wasn't real. But that was quite impressive and memorable.
Well, when I speak to my friends tonight for our virtual pint, I'll be in the Caribbean on a beach.
Because we can't be otherwise. Now, you mentioned it earlier, Elaine, as a great feature, and it's one that's worth touching upon in a touch more detail. It's the record feature that you have. Yeah. So you are able to record what you're doing whilst you're on the Zoom call.
Yes, you are. And just sort of a heads up on that is when you're going to record something, let the people know on it that you are recording it. You shouldn't be recording it if you haven't told them you are.
Quite right.
So you record it, and so what that allows you to do is once you press record, it automatically records the whole thing until you actually close it. So you don't when it saves it once you close it, even though you might stop it before you finish. Only when you actually close the meeting does it then start transferring it into a folder for you. And it does it in an audio and a video, I think. Is it called video? I think they call it. So it does it in a couple of folders for you. So so then obviously it allows you then to send that to people as an audio link if you want to, or an MP3 or an MP4, whichever works for you best. And of course, as you said, we do it for the podcast. So it means you can do a video version and then convert that, if you're clever, into an audio version. So there's lots of opportunities. You can actually do them a Facebook Live, can't you, via Zoom?
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah, I haven't tried it, but I believe you can do that. So again, another great thing, isn't it?
I suppose the reason why you would want, or why you get excited, or perhaps I'm just sad about having a video and an audio file, is the flexibility in the platforms that you can then apply them to. So videos are obviously ideal for YouTube. Videos, as Chris will tell you again and again, are great content for social media, but the audio files can be used for the likes of podcasts, or if you're, as you say, Elaine, doing a training session of some description, it can become a training audio file that can perhaps go on to the back end of your website and be sold as a product.
Absolutely.
Have you done much recording on the Caribbean whilst drinking in the pub, Chris? Or what about your webinars? Would you ever consider doing that?
I'd consider it, but I haven't done it yet. I mean, one of them was recorded and given to a client on request. But I'm reluctant to record them. I've had this conversation, I think, with Elaine a few times, and it's something that's still in the melting pot. Unfortunately, it's been in that melting pot for about a year, and by the time I get round to making a decision, it might have melted. So,
It might be a chocolate fondue by that time then.
yes.
But we all like chocolate fondue, so that's okay.
Absolutely.
10 minutes, 10 days, 10 actions is brought to you by 2 Summit Up. Expert sales tips and advice provided in a structured, bite-sized way for only £97. Learn how to improve your processes with 10-minute podcasts provided each day for 10 days, which you can listen to from the comfort of your own home, office, or whilst out and about. For more information, visit 2summitup.co.uk/10-actions.
You mentioned about Facebook and being able to link it in. I suppose that's probably one of the best features of Zoom as a software platform because it's become so popular. It's therefore being able to build linked relationships with a number of other platforms so that you can sort of use it or tie it in with tools that you might already be using on a regular basis. Now, Elaine, last week you mentioned Calendly as being the tool of the week. And if you want to find out more about that, go to the episode 40 show notes and you'll find a link there. Now, Calendly is one where you can book appointments or allow people to book appointments online. You can actually create it so that it's a Zoom event, and because the two speak to one another when someone books in for a Zoom appointment, Zoom will automatically generate the link for them. It'll send them the calendar entry so that you won't have to mess around in creating it, sending emails and doing all the other stuff. And I suppose that's definitely a positive that I found with Zoom is the ability to use it really quickly and easily through other platforms.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I mean, it's, the thing is, when prior to all of this going on, Zoom was used, but it's obviously stepped up massively. So they've just worked on enhancing it, all over these months, and they're doing a great job that it integrates with so many things. So it's anything that saves time in the business, it's got to be a good thing, isn't it? So the Calendly, as you say, is fantastic, isn't it? That you automatically get that then, and you're not then chasing around for a link, or you're thinking, oh, that's another note to myself, I've got to set that up. Anything like that is just great for small businesses. So really big positive.
Now, as Peter Parker, that's easy for me to say, as Peter Parker was once told, with great power comes great responsibility. There is always a double-edged sword to these things, isn't there? Zoom is a wonderful, wonderful tool. However, if not used properly, can cause all kinds of problems. So, who would like to go first? Chris, perhaps you would like to come first with your biggest pitfall that you would stress people be wary of when using Zoom.
Zoom relies heavily on a good broadband signal. I think we've probably all been in all been in meetings or networking do's with a couple of Norman Colliers and you managed to grasp every second word. And for those of you who don't know who Norman Collier is, please Google Norman Collier.
Google him, yeah.
Right after Fat Jack or whatever his name was.
Fat Larry. But you just hear every other word and can't understand the whole sequence of the conversation is lost. The whole meaning is lost. So that's the biggest pitfall that I've experienced is other people's dodgy broadband. Mine, touch wood, has held up pretty well.
I think that's something you've got to bear in mind, Elaine. When you're doing it with somebody else and you're trying to show them something, is that Zoom's reliant upon you having a good internet speed and them having a good internet speed.
Yeah.
It can't be one or the other. So one of the things I come across quite regularly is when people try and share their screen. They don't realise how much bandwidth it uses for both people at both ends. And if they then try and do, for example, a video or to do an audio file, or they try to do something clever whilst having a bad internet connection, it will fail miserably. So the video will lag and the audio will go on ahead of the video, so what they're seeing and what they're hearing won't be synchronized. And even if you're watching it and it looks perfectly fine, what they're receiving at their end, because their internet's poorer than yours, might be completely different. And I think quite often people don't bear in mind those challenges.
Yeah, we've all, as you say, we've all been on the end of those, haven't we? And of course the other one is the muting thing. Is, you know, everybody's saying, "Can you hear me?" That's so. It's like it's one of the phrases of the year, isn't it? Or last year, "Can you hear me?" Yes.
Next slide, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So, particularly, I'm talking presentation-wise now. I can't stress it enough, is get yourself well prepared beforehand for everything that you need to press, do, or otherwise. And actually, so, you know, if particularly if you've got a large audience, do you want them to be, you know, all muted and you control that? You know, is it just a listening thing? You know, and equally to remember, if you're using the chat box, it can be hard to see that when you're presenting as well. So sometimes it's best to have someone else who's looking at the chat box for you.
Yes.
So there's definite like learnings like that, but probably the worst one, which I saw on the internet, was the poor lady who, all in the early days, who went off to the loo and left the bathroom door open, not realising that she may have muted herself, but that didn't mean that people couldn't see her. It was like, oh my God. So there's this, I think there's probably less of those things happen now as people have got a bit more savvy with it, but yes, there's a few watch outs for sure.
It always baffles me, Chris. This is one of the things I've come across on Zoom, how unaware people are of how noisy their own environment is. The number of times when there's been a couple of situations where we've had an event on and we've kind of wanted everyone to be unmuted to create that more natural sort of interaction, you know, almost the banter that goes with with being in a room. However, sort of stressing at the beginning that if it gets noisy, would you do us a favour and just mute yourself? And yet people don't mute themselves, or you have everyone muted and people who don't want to be told that they have to be muted will unmute themselves when, I don't know, the 3-year-old kids are running around bashing pans and pots, or the dog's going mental, this is the most annoying one. Somebody's sitting next to them watching TV, so all you can hear is their TV. They're sitting in exactly the same room and they won't be muted, and yet nobody can hear anything because of this bloody TV.
And there's your gardener and my creaky chair. Elaine's little Miss Perfect, isn't she?
One of the other things I would probably stress as a warning caution is to use the security settings on Zoom. So when you create an event, now it might be for a one-to-one meeting, it's not that important, but if you're doing an event that you're going to publicise to your public to try and get people to come, and you're going to include the link, then you need to try and make sure that it's ticketed in such a way where there is a password that allows you to enter the event, and only the people who have verified that they want to come get that password. Because I have heard of stories of people having PTA meetings and people with nothing better to do in their lives jumping on and either saying something or doing something or posting something or showing something that's offensive and then diving straight out of that meeting. And by just adding the simple measure of a password stops idiots like that from being able to spoil your awards due, your networking event, or your meeting or your webinar, where you might want to keep it very professional, or you might have an audience that really shouldn't be exposed to that kind of content.
Good advice.
Fab. So, have we done Zoom there? I think we've been quite comprehensive in the benefits.
I don't think we're all fans.
I don't think we've mentioned the amazing savings that are to be made by, not having to travel down to London, by meeting people. The person I met this morning, as I say, he was in Chelmsford. One of them, the other one was local, but the other one was in Chelmsford. Couldn't have done that.
No,
inexpensively otherwise.
No, as a Yorkshireman, I'm always up for saving a few pennies.
Big savings to be made, but
no,
I do have a message from our sponsor.
Larry.
That's Fat Larry. Anyway, enough Larry. Great song.
Yeah.
Just finally then, just to wrap this up, has this changed the way that you do business and how you market your business? Has it generated you work as a result of this tool? And if so, how? And I will start with you, Chris.
I was going to say 100%, but it's not 100%. It's a decent percentage. But yes, it's changed the way I look at things, and I will carry on doing Zoom meetings. I can meet more people, more hassle-free. I'm not arriving after driving 200 miles, arriving hot and bothered in the sun in the summer, or a treacherous journey in the winter. It's just, you walk into your home office, you sit down. It's 10 o'clock. Log on. You're meeting them. So let's not underestimate that. That will stay with me. I'll carry on doing that without question.
And you, Elaine?
Yeah, definitely the same. As a shameless plug here, I launched a 6-week program. I decided I was going to do it before Christmas. Launched it, started in January, and the 6 people on it all live up different places in the country. I would never have thought about doing that beforehand, and now I'm going to plan them right through the year. So it's just great, and obviously for them it's great because they're meeting people that are not in their area either, so it's opening their network up further. So yeah, huge plus. And as you say, the thing is, you don't even think about it now. I'd do it as an automatic thing, whereas 12 months ago I wouldn't have thought of it doing it that way.
It's changed an awful lot of businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've done Zoom thoroughly. Before we wrap up the show, we usually give you a tool or a resource that we recommend you check out to perhaps help you. Have we got one this week?
Yes, I have, Mark, and it's Fiverr. Many people will know and have used Fiverr, spelt Fiverr. Don't forget the 2 R's at the end. Particular reason I have used it in the past and would use it in the future is for voiceovers. Absolutely fabulous facility for voiceovers. The choice can be tailored to suit the particular requirement. If you're needing a voiceover for an introduction to a video, or do they call them outros now, Mark? Is that the cool thing? Intros and outros.
Or drops. It depends how cool you want to be.
Yeah. Brilliant from that point of view, and can just make your video or your advert or whatever it might be just be that little bit more professional by using a professional actor, actress, whatever, using Fiverr's voiceover facility.
Fantastic. Yeah, highly recommend Fiverr. It's great. There are some people who aren't always necessarily as good as they might profess. There's a few IP rights issues on there as well. There's people who offer stuff which is quite clearly a blatant and flagrant breach of people's intellectual property, so do be careful. But yes, it's fab if you get the right people.
I'm restricting my recommendation to voiceovers. There's lots of other stuff on there, but voiceovers, and you can hear them before you book them as well, and then send a simple script over. They interpret the script. You have the opportunity to either reject it, ask them to do it again, or accept it. And it's good, it's simple, it's cheap, and it's quick.
Fantastic. So that's the tool of the week. So we've done Zoom. We've given you a tool. We've given you a bit of news. Wow, we've been it's a busy old episode, is that? So hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have done, give us a review on the platform that you use to listen to your podcasts. If you've got a question, then you can send it to gofish@thepodstation.co.uk, or a topic suggestion. If Zoom wants to send us a massive check for the enormous amount of promotion we've just given them, then please feel free to do so. We will take checks, although having received a check from my grandma over Christmas and having still got it in my wallet because there's no ability to bank it, there's just nowhere to bank it, and if you do go and bank it, you're risking life and limb. So I've realised how dated checks are. So perhaps just a back transfer will be quite nice, Zoom. That's okay. So that would be good. Give us a follow on social media. You can check us out on @go_fish_marketing, or if they want to get in touch with us or follow us on social media individually, how can they get hold of you, Chris?
LinkedIn, just my name, Chris Roxburgh, ROXBURGH. The other social medias, just Google Guy for Marketing, they'll all come up.
Elaine, if they want to get in touch with you on social media, how can they find you, or where?
Find me on LinkedIn mainly, so that's Elaine Atherton, obviously. And then my website is www.tosummitup.com. That's 2 M's in the middle.
Fantastic. And if you want to find me, I'm on all of the platforms, so you can either find me as Mark R. Pollard as a handle on all of the platforms, or Funky Vibes with a 3 instead of an E at the end, because that bugger who stole it first. Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So next week we should hopefully be sticking with the topic, the pandemic topic, and doing email marketing. We're going to have a guest, hopefully, to cover this, what we've described as a socially distanced form of communication. So all being well, that should be what we're touching on in a fortnight's time, so you can check that out. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, guys. We hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you very much, Chris and Elaine, for your wonderful input.
Thank you for your hosting skills, Mark.
Thank you. We'll catch you next time, guys. See you later now. Bye.
Get social at go_fish marketing on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.